just waiting for confirmation that it's recording, and I will share my screen and start up demos. Yeah, it's recording. So I want to focus on the usability changes I made recently first. One thing is the column editor. So when you open the column editor, you will see that nothing is selected on the right side. It was pointed out by Andreas that everything that was seen here is selected, and as such could be a bit confusing for the user. Another usability issue I saw is that when you move these rows, this is much better performing action. We no longer need to communicate with the backend to get another data set from the backend, because I found that in this case, there's no need to actually communicate with the backend for this special operation. We only basically moved one row to further down, and so there's no need to get more field data from the backend. So the performance on the moving elements up and down is greatly improved. Also, we had some stability issues. Sometimes it was not possible to delete individual lines like this I'm doing now. So that has also been more stable after this refactoring. Another improvement I made was that I'm now enforcing this setting. So if this option in your profile page has not been selected, which is off by default, then whenever you come back to this page, it will not be opening tracking, for instance, if you left the page in tracking or the module, then when you come back to the module, it will again load the project list. I think, especially if the users are viewing and editing large projects, this is the preferred solution, because loading a project directly in the editor window is time consuming, and I think it's better to introduce the project overview first. Also, as Andreas pointed out, I recently made some improvements on the implementation we use for zooming. So this is a bit technical, but one of the things I've managed to track was that when we, for instance, scroll up and down here on the list, the old implementation were catching events and acting on these events as if the user had been pressing zoom in, zoom out. It meant that when you scrolled up and down and did other interactions, which doesn't affect actually the zoom level, still the calculations that are needed to maintain the zoom level when pressing on zoom out, zoom in, were actually calculated and acted on. And that was a huge resource, a waste of resources, and also could be a problem in that there were so many events triggered that one calculation could be could be called within one another calculation. I think that led to some of the instability we saw in this implementation. So now the smoothness is much improved. Scrolling also, the performance should be better. Also, if you hover over these buttons and scroll on the mouse wheel, you can actually change the scaling using the scroll wheel on the mouse. So that's also, I think, for myself, quite an improvement. The other actions to zoom to function or zoom to task is working. If I zoom in quite a bit now, you can see this go to task is also working in it, that it selects the starting date, but doesn't affect the zoom level as such. So yeah, everything seems to be more stable and better performing. Also, you would see that when I open this page, another usability improvement is that the lower panel is no longer seen, especially on this screen resolution. When I show the lower panel, it takes a lot of space. Just know that Jan pointed out that there's a lot of white space here, which seems to be not used. So my plan is not to forget this, Jan, but come back to this also problem and make it more compact so that we don't actually use so many pixels in this lower section. So that's something I think to do also quite soon. Another functional improvement I made, let me take up a very small project, is the ability to delete and add links. So if you have already established a link, you can double click on it and you get the option to remove the link. Now, what you would be expecting is to have this rescheduled. Unfortunately, there's still a known bug on this. So if I save this as a permanent change, go to project list, clear server and open it, then, yeah, okay, there might be some other problems now, but let me illustrate this in a different way. So let me save this as a permanent change. I establish a link between these two projects, tasks, and save this permanently. Okay, yeah. So this is obviously not working as I should like it to work. So I still need to work on this. But let's see. Clear the server and go back to the activities view, and now you can see it's rescheduled. So yes, just know that this rescheduling issue is still a problem. So if you're playing with deleting and adding links, and you're expecting it to be rescheduled and placed in a different position, the only way to make sure is to save it and go to project, clear a server and open it again. Then you will see the scheduling that was actually happening, but not transmitted back to the server, to the client. Also, now working should be adding new assignments and fixed costs in these lower tables, but not only adding, but also deleting. So now it's possible to delete an activity and save it as permanent change, and it's not deleted from the database. Just know there's another issue with the delete functionality in that I only delete elements in the activity table, that is 80 tasks. I do not currently investigate other tables in the database to make sure that the deleted task is no longer referenced. And also, as Andreas told me, the functionality is such that if you're trying to delete an activity which have been given hours in the timesheet module, then the user shouldn't be allowed to delete that activity. And that's also some logic I need to add into it. So again, I need to come back soon to make sure that this is also working as intended. What else? I think basically that's a good rundown of what I've been doing the last 2 weeks. Are there any questions or comments to what I have just shown you?
I have some questions.
Yeah.
Can you open the column dialog?
Yes.
You showed move up and down. What about select something here? Yes. Is that also improved? Because
No.
this was my problem mainly, and I can't see any reason why you should interact with the backend here as well, because nothing should happen until you press OK.
This is the expected behavior, isn't it?
The problem is that if you click two elements too quickly, then element number 2 will just be turned on and turned off again.
Okay. In that case, what I'll do, I'll also make sure that we don't communicate with the backend. There is a condition where you need to communicate with the backend, and that is where you have applied a filter, and you're clicking on one of the group nodes. In which case, you need to communicate with the backend because they're quite the logic that involves the group node is quite complex. But as long as you,
why can we? What happens when I click the group node? I never tried that.
Let me do this by grouping it by entity and type. That's not working actually.
Okay.
So I recently made some changes. So I now changed to for the group, but doesn't apply. So basically, now the grouping are so large that it doesn't make sense to click on this group node. But let me.
I would just want to add. I think if clicking the group node would add everything below it or remove everything below it, I think that's a dangerous functionality. We should not allow that. It's not very useful, and you can mess up.
Let me try to explain how it is actually currently working.
Okay.
So I'm not able to delete rows now. I don't know why. Maybe because of some interaction that I made. But if there were no project fields selected, it will show like not selected here. The first time you select on this row, it will insert a project name column, an already named column. The next time you click on it, it will insert all project elements. So the first click on a group is basically the natural selection for this group. The second click on the group will do everything on the group. So
I think the first click is good functionality. The second, dangerous. But okay. We can discuss that later, I guess.
Yes, if you group it by activity, entity, and type, for instance, it would be very easy to select the activity category group and click on the category list, and you will get all categories inserted into the table.
Yes, I just think that's a bit dangerous. if you accidentally click something you weren't supposed to click. But
yeah, if it's too much, you can always do cancel, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, but let me just fix this problem where I'm not able to group this selection, and I'll have you play with it, Andreas, and maybe you can come back to give me some conclusion on these findings.
Yeah, I just my problem is sorry.
Yeah. Would it be a lot of work to also support undo here?
Undo is supported. So if you have selected everything under group and you click on it, everything will be unselected.
Yeah, but what if you had selected 3 columns and you don't remember what columns that was because you accidentally clicked everything? Then you click them back again. Will they still be selected? No, it doesn't work.
No, I don't think so. So and this is not working as it was did previously. So I need to reinvestigate this partial selection because it's not working as it's supposed to do now. Sorry about that.
Of course, if you have an accurate undo, then that would mitigate Andreas' concern.
Yes, I agree.
It sort of would, but it's another functionality that I don't know if we need. I want to keep it simple, and if it's a very useful functionality that we will use often to select an entire group, then we can have it. But we have to balance it with the downside of will you really ever use this functionality? Do you have to have some special exceptions because now you have to communicate with the backend and so on? So I think we should discuss just removing this possibility altogether.
Yeah. Because you see now I'm highlighting many rows and I'm pressing on space to select.
Yeah,
and that is immediate.
As long as you can do that, why do you need this?
I agree. You can expand on the group and select everything you do. So what I'll do then, I'll remove the option to click on groups for selection.
Yeah, but you had one exception where clicking a group would add the most used column, and that can be useful in some cases where you have like some other places where you select manager, for instance. You don't have to expand it to select manager name. To click manager and you get manager name. That's in most cases what you want anyway. So,
Yeah, I think it should be
this
working that
functionality
way.
only. Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually working that way.
Mhm.
So you want to retain this, but delete the option to have everything selected. Yeah.
Yes, if possible. But if this causes a problem that you have to that there will be some problems with the functionality itself because you have to communicate with the backend, maybe we should discuss it. But for now, at least, we do have a problem. If you click two elements without waiting in between, then you can end up with element number 2 not being selected, or it's selected and then unselected again.
Okay. Yeah, but I'll take all of these feedbacks and try to improve on the solution soon.
Okay. And then I have another comment. You said, I've been wondering, I haven't said anything about it yet, but you have this zoom by using the mouse wheel up and down. Can you show that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering about that the last time, so I tried it now on my computer and I can't get this to work. And also, I think it's very strange to have this functionality linked up to the buttons. It's more logical because, for instance, the plus button, can you scroll both up and down on both the plus and the minus?
Yes.
I think that's a bit odd. Why don't you link it rather to the graphic itself? Here.
It was
here
not
it's
technically
logical.
possible to do that, Andreas. I did try that several
Okay.
times. But there is a
Okay,
problem in that these elements are so dynamic that linking it to event handler is very difficult technically. So
Okay.
and in fact, the HTMLX themselves have such a functionality where you can actually say that the scroll wheel should work against zoom, but then the HTMLX API says you need to link that mouse event against another element outside of the Gantt chart itself. So even the HTMLX haven't found a solution for that.
Okay. Yeah, because I like the functionality, but it's strange to link it to something outside. But we just have to we can keep it, but we just have to make sure that at least we have some documentation, because it's not very intuitive to do that on the plus and minus button, I think.
No, and it will be the same because maybe the team should be informed about this. We have requested, and what I will try to implement before we finish this, is that if I hold down the control button and paint the mouse over this line and release the mouse, then the painted area should be the new zoom limitations. We have such a functionality in desktop client, and we want to try to reproduce it in the Angular client as well. And this then would replace today's need to manually edit these dates, which aren't even working correctly. So I today had talked with Andreas to disable this possibility to edit entering new date values here. So the only possible ways to make changes here would be to using the zoom and pan functionality.
Andreas?
Yes.
What about adding one extra icon for the mouse zoom and try to find the symbol that makes it easier to understand that you can actually use the wheel? You know, plus and minus will still operate as plus and minus, but we have a new icon which is the support of the wheel.
It's a bit strange to place it on an icon on the menu in any case, I think. But
we could add some text in the tooltip.
Yes, I think that's better. It's strange in both cases, but at least we don't have to add another button. But
and what if we will align these two buttons, let's say, to the right, and they will be just at the bottom of the graphic, so it will be more, let's say, feeling that it connected to the graphic. I mean, zoom in and zoom out, these two buttons. Let's say it will be just right upper the graphic, these two buttons. So it will be more like they're connected.
the entire line here is sensitive to the mouse wheel, so I can stand here and scroll the mouse wheel outside of the icons, and it's also working. So,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
And
But again, it's a
I
hidden
have-
functionality. I don't think most users will need it, but I find it, and I will be using it, I'm sure, during my own sessions with Atrega.
It's actually a good functionality. But of course, it would be best if we could find some way to link it directly to this chart itself, and of course then we could zoom into the area where you have placed the mouse and just instead of just having a general zoom in, if you want to zoom into week 7 for instance. But if it's not possible,
Maybe I can create here a transparent invisible element
on top of
which
this.
on top of this,
Yes.
in front of it, and link the event to this transparent element. Let me try that as a solution, because that would be very nice, I think.
That would be very nice. Very nice. Mm-hmm.
Any other comments on my demo?
Yes, I have just small, let's say, comment. When we delete link between the tasks, it seems to me that we have kind of deletion message. Yeah, and I understand that this kind of, let's say, preliminary message, but I just wanted to say that I think all the messages like this should be, let's say, have more like a standard view. And
Yes.
yeah,
So
and maybe we can, let's say, implement kind of service with standard messages inside. the
yes,
client
I
application.
completely agree, Olga. There's no that there's some thinking about this, because I wanted to not spend too much time implementing this functionality for now. And we need to discuss what properties of the link should be editable. So a link in a desktop client could be edited to add some delay to it. So I think this should have multiple purposes, not only to delete, but also to be able to open the link to be edited, and where you can actually make changes to the delay, or even change the relationship end to end or finish to finish. All of these things should be accessible from this pop-up, I think.
Yeah, I think we should copy more or less what's in the iLog version today, because then you can do much more than just delete.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but again, it was not formally declared in the user story. So, and I wanted to give people the opportunity to play with it. But yeah, we certainly will be returning back to this. And it's very good that you comment on it, Olga, because otherwise you might have gone with this, I guess, for too long and not have time to fix it.
On my machine, I have such issues. For example, when I open some dialogues, let's say model dialogues, an Angular project, some of them fit to my screen and some of them are bigger than my screen. And I have to move them on the screen just to see the buttons, for example, save or cancel. So it's obviously that they are implemented in different way, and some of them for my environment are okay. Oh yeah, like this. And
yes.
Some are not.
There's a lot of white space, but still we can't display the cancel button here, which is it's very strange. So
I strongly support Olga. It's the same on my machine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's problematic for the automatic testing as well, because it doesn't want to click it if it's outside. So I have to force it to add some force logic for it to be able to click it.
But thanks for all the feedback. And now I think it's a very good benefit that we made a video recording here, because then we don't have the ability to forget. Anyone else have any comments for me?
Pronto, could you clarify what means after click on clear server button?
What means clicking on the link?
No. Project list page, and you add button clear server.
Oh, okay, yeah. Let me try to explain this. So if I make a change in the activity table here, you will see it's flagged to be green. Now the save button is enabled. The green indicates that this change has been transmitted to the server and stored in the server-side project cache. So now, if I do a refresh on the page, I'm losing all my local data, right? But when I return back to the project, you will see that I get told by the project server that I have a temporary change here. So now the save button is enabled, as it should be, because I have non-temporary changes hosted on the server. If I press on the save button, those will be made permanent changes to the database. But if I wanted to undo this, I don't think this is a usability function for the users, but during testing now, you can press on this button, and then you will see that my changes have been undone. Basically, this forces a reloading of data from this database into the project side cache.
Okay, understand.
So that's why I even haven't done an icon on it, because it will be removed before we ship this to the customers.
I also have some problems. For instance, if I open a project, then I open another project, and then I open the first project again, then I get a crash. I use this button just to clear that up, because it seems to be linked to something on the server side. Do you want me to report these issues too?
Yes, if it's a consistent problem and it's a natural workflow, then I should be informed about it.
Okay. I just pressed this clear button and we're happy. But okay, I can create a bug for it.
I recently found some caches of my own that I fixed. For instance, if there's a project that had data for cross-project links or curve data on it, then you will get a crash when loading it. So and if it was data that is actually being displayed. So yeah. One thing which I haven't actually mentioned, you see this strange bar coloring. You might wonder why it's looking so strange. This is because I'm testing out a solution for changing the completeness of our activity. So I made a change on this now, and as long as it's set to be not automatically calculated, it will actually change the percent work on it. So obviously, again, there's that problem here, and it's investigates. But this is also a temporary solution. I think if we want to go with this as a final solution, we should make a different rendering of this, maybe a transparent overlay or something like that, because it does hide a lot of information by having it like this. So I think a transparent layer might be a solution to go for.
Okay, good. But I don't know, maybe today, maybe a bit later, we should discuss general behavior. For example, user go to activities or tracking and make some changes, but not saved them, and go to another model. Should we suggest save data before move to our model or not?
I think in general cases it will be a good idea, because it's
as long as the user intentionally leaves the session, I agree we should allow the user to save, or the data will be changes will be removed. But if it happens that the browser is crashing, or if the PC is disconnected from the network, and then it's very nice to have those changes on the server side, at least for a few more hours, so that the user can come back and continue where he left off.
How you will define this time for keeping that on server?
That's a good question. We don't have any timeout on it now. So currently it's actually permanent until you reboot the server, or until you make a change on the server, or until you do this clear cache. So yeah.
We do have a setup of the application pool. Is it dependent on the application pool or not?
Yes, it's depending on the application pool.
Okay, then it's 4 hours for most.
But isn't it so that if we are, let's say, session is live and we just, I don't know, made some changes in projects and decided to go to reporting or somewhere else, just to say for the user that, okay, you have don't saved data.
Yes, we should be able to reproduce this functionality we have here in timesheet. So if I make a change here, then leave. Sorry, that was not our. Then leave this. That you get this. What? Shouldn't they get a warning? It actually made. No, that's strange. I thought they should have a warning, Alena.
Yes.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
should. Maybe you found a new bug.
It's
What's
sweet.
this in the top right corner? Test.
Yeah, this
task,
is this is a problem with the local session. Let me just refresh everything. Yeah, Jan, what's your time limits today, if any?
I have no problems today.
Let me find some week that has hours on it.
If I tested it in 5.4 at least, then it works. So maybe it's a new 5.5 problem.
Yeah, let me go back sometime. If I make a change here, no warning, and then something is saved. So yeah, this is certainly something we need to address.
Okay.
Bernd, could you update any value and move to other models?
Yes, you can do that. If I go to administration.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's not
okay.
working anymore.
Yeah.
No.
I think you found a new bug. I tested
Yeah.
in both versions now, and I get the same result in develop, but not in 5.4.
Okay. But so I would like to have the same functionality here, but with the addition that if a user is not actually logging out of the application or moving to a different page, but crashing, then the user have the option to come back a few hours later and continue on his edits. I think that would be very beneficial. Good. Any more comments? No, in that case, I will end my demo. Thanks for all the feedback. I will leave you the video later on and make sure I don't forget anything. Does anyone else have anything to show today? Let's go person by person. And if you don't have anything to show, just say what you've been working on the last week or so. So let's start with Anatoly.
Okay. I have draft version of first page of resource page. Just a moment, I share my screen. Do you see my screen?
I do, yes.
Here we are already on the resource page. So as you see, we display name of resources, some other fields. For example, category fields. We can change it. We can change username linked to the resource. We can change preferred user. Here on this page we have general resources and also user resources. Here we can see two users. Also we can select some bug here. We can select add fields to the view. Here we can see RAID 2 added. We can change view, but now on the current view here because some bug in Perovin code. We can add new resources. Now here we can see only simple implementation, but probably adding new resources will use additional dialog. And also you can delete it. Now we delete it without confirmation. It will be added later. That's all.
Do you have any questions for Anatoly or comments on it?
Not for me.
No? Thanks, Anatoly. Olga, do you have anything to show us or talked about?
Yes, I can show. There's not so much to show actually, but anyway. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
So, like I said, my task is mainly connected to backend development, but anyway, I've added this icon that is saying us that we can import data from timesheet, and on the UI we can have this dialog, and when I will refactor the backend, it will work. But as I saw just at Anatoly's presentation, the same thing I have also on my environment. In some reason, I understand that these two buttons are divided with, let's say, kind of splitter, but I don't see it on my screen. And when I briefly look to the page, it looks like the icons are not aligned. And in some reason, they are also blurred. I don't know what is the reason, but looks a bit strange. Maybe this is my kind of environment thing. And also we've discussed with Ilyana that I understand that this is not the biggest problem that we have currently, but anyway, the icons, they fill the square in different manner, and visually they seems to be different size, to have different size. So maybe in some future we can adjust things like that. So that's it actually for me.
I have a comment on the toolbar functionality myself. Currently, I believe all toolbars in our Angular client is based on the material toolbar. And this was created as a solution before Telerik created their own toolbar functionality. But if you compare the material functionality against the Telerik functionality, you would soon see that there are some benefits in the Telerik which is not functionally implemented in material. So in Telerik functionality, you have a natural overflow functionality in addition to the wrapper functionality. So if you require the toolbar to be not wrapped, then it will be very good to have an overflow functionality. It means that when there's not room on the screen to show the entire toolbar, what happens is that you get a button towards the end or the start of the toolbar, which displays a pull-down list for all the actions not currently visible on the toolbar, but outside of the screen. And I think this is something we should and implement as a solution for all our Angular pages. So when we have time to refactor, not only would I like to clean up these kind of minor pixel artifacts, but I would also like to see us move away from the material toolbar to the Telerik one because of this improved functionality.
Yeah, it will be really nice because this is more like standard way of behavior when, for example, toolbar is not fit to the screen.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Any other comments for Olga? No? You're last up then, Alexei.
Hello. This week I have nothing to show because I was working on a home assignment at the start of the week and spent some time on it, and then I started working on my new task with select which exists in desktop version, and we have to implement same functionality but using Angular in web application, and now researching on this task, and soon we'll have some working version. That's all for me.
I think it's a good initial task for you, Alexei, because it requires you to get good knowledge about how data is flowing from the server to the client and how it's presented in the client. So, but as always, don't hesitate to ask me if you need something to clarify.
Always. Okay, we'll ask you.
Yeah, good. Jan, do you have any comments for the team?
No, I have no comments. I just will be interesting to see when we're starting to getting closer to something we can release, and there's quite a few things we have to complete before then.
Yes. Elena, did you have a comment on your own?
Yes, one remark from my side. Let me share my screen. On Wiki, I created a document with name changes for release 5.5, and here I added some questions which should be discussed for UI in general. And Andreas, if you will have some notes, then you can add in this document also, and maybe in some time we may discuss some changes, all these changes.
Nice initiative, Elena.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, that's all from my side.
Okay, I will end here today then. Wish everyone a good weekend, and yeah, see you on Monday. Bye-bye for now.
Yeah, have a nice
Bye-bye.
weekend.
Have a nice
Thank you,
weekend.
bye.
Thank you to all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have a nice weekend. Bye bye.